Hey, what's up, y'all, and welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast where we share candid, open, and sometimes vulnerable conversations between and about men. Today with me, I have my friend Meghan. Meghan and I have known each other forever. We have a really great talk today about relationship dynamics, wealth in relationships, how that sort of changed over time and is changing. Yeah, it's a really good talk. It's a really good talk. So I hope you all enjoy it. If you're not already, make sure that you hit the subscribe button. We've just gotten over 200 subscribers recently, so I'm super excited about that. Yeah, just happy to see this channel continue to grow as it is. Anyways, without further ado, I'll let y'all enjoy the episode, and I'll see y'all at the end, and I will see y'all next week. Peace. I'll introduce you first. Oh my goodness. My friend Meghan. I had to restart the cameras. I'm not going to lie about this shit. I fucked up. I stopped recording the audio. We're just redoing an intro here.
We've been talking for hours.
One day I'm probably going to do that. One day I'm probably going to forget just everything and completely fuck a whole shoot.
Realistically, I probably should have I should have saw that and was like, oh, it's not.
No, it's not your responsibility. That's all on me. Meghan is here as my guest today, and Meghan is a long-term friend. Known her since I've known Sebastian, so 14 years as well. Yeah, just a wonderful, lovely person. Over half our lives. It is crazy. And then the longer we stay together, the longer it's going to be.
At some point, it's going to be like the amount of time we didn't know each other was like
minuscule,
a tenth
like
of
a
our
fraction.
lives.
Yeah. So we got to make it to like 100 or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. we could try. The first person, this is bullshit, like there's no backing to this, the first person that was or that will live to be 150 has already been born.
How do you know that?
I don't know, something about science. It's garbage. Enhancing life, I don't know.
All right, I believe it.
Prolonging
I'll trust you this time.
We were talking before I fucked up the cameras about birth control, and we'll just bring that up again, but whether or not we think male birth control should be a thing.
And I'm totally for it. I think that what I said was I think it depends on the side effects that guys get, and I think until we know that, which one is worse, which one is better. I mean, I'm sure, I don't think it'd be worse. I just assume I assume it can't be
worse. Because honestly, at the same time too, I didn't even think of this till right now. The people making it are probably gonna be men, and they're gonna want to make it not bad for themselves because they're men.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like Classic. If anything, it'll like chill guys out, like make guys less angry, less emotional. Maybe I don't know.
Just mellow you out.
But I think assuming the side effects aren't that bad, I think I should totally do it.
I would do it. Yeah.
Well, just like then whenever you sleep with anyone, you're comfortable knowing that
you have, like, you're in control.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You are taking, but I mean, I guess we could just say men could use condoms.
That too, but
who are we kidding, everybody? That's terrible.
Do we trust everyone to be that responsible?
Not all the time. The reason why we're talking about birth control is we're going to be talking about dating apps and dating in general, but also just kind of like dynamics between relationships with men and women and how those are changing over time. We brought up birth control because that's also starting to change. Historically, it's been a thing that like women have to bear the brunt of all this stuff and men
all
are
the
just
side
there
effects.
being men. So now we are seeing a shift in that, and a lot of other things are changing as far as, I guess, like stereotypes go, or like norms around relationships. But first question, we're going to start talking about dating apps, and I was going to ask you, what do you like or don't like to see on dating apps?
Yes. So I've only had or tried two dating apps, Hinge and Raya, and both of them are apps that are just a bit more like on your profile you can show your personality a bit more, which is what I enjoy, because I feel like you can just meet such bland people. Because Hinge has like the 3 or 5 questions that you can answer and like put the videos in or whatever,
and you can be pretty funny with it.
You can be pretty funny, and like you can definitely get to know someone just off of those first 3 or 5 things. And then Raya, what you do is you have like I think it's like a minute or 2 minutes of different videos and photos, but then you also get to like pick your own song that plays with it, so it's like a slideshow, little montage, so you can kind of get
someone's grandma made Raya or something.
And then it like tells you like what they do and everything. So I feel like from the get-go it's just like, do you have personality? Like, are you funny? Like, is there something about you where I'm like, that kind of like, that made me laugh, or like that made me somewhat interested. That'll be the first thing.
It's not just a dude with like a fish.
Exactly. Honestly, if I see a fish, it's definitely
fucking gone.
Whatever the left or right is at this point, I don't even know.
Man, for me, like those things on Hinge, because I've used Hinge before too.
Yeah.
I've used Hinge. I haven't used Raya because I'm not cool enough. It's some exclusive thing, whatever. I haven't used Raya. I've used Bumble. I've used Tinder. So I've used the Holy Trinity.
Which one's your favorite?
Hinge is my favorite for like quality conversation, people,
right.
like matches. Yeah.
Right.
I feel like there's a lot more to go off of most of the time, but to the same effect, when you're on Hinge, you can have those things and you can be funny, but you can also just ruin them. Like you'll go through and you'll find a profile and it's just like one word for every single thing, or they're all related to liking to go eat.
Well,
no
at least
one
then
gives
you
a
know
shit.
it's like automatic. Like you can be the hottest person, but if you have no personality,
who cares?
Yeah.
Because I guess, I think Hinge does a better job at managing that. Because if I remember Hinge correctly, you couldn't just swipe. You had to hit a button. You had to tap and hit a button.
I think you had to like either like a specific photo or comment or something, and you could reply specifically to the comments.
And I think that slows it down a little bit.
Yeah. And even for like people replying to you, it's like, okay, what are you replying? Is it just like nice photo?
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
Or is it like something witty or something about like whatever you're doing or whatever your response was? So definitely like any apps where personality can just be shown right away.
That's a plus already. Yeah. Because I feel like Tinder and Bumble, it's so fast. It's just like you see the photo, you just like or not, right?
It's fun when you're doing it for a friend.
Oh yeah, it's the best when you're doing it for a friend. Yeah, you get to make all the choices, and
but
they're staring at you, going, "What the fuck
like,
are you doing?"
Yeah. And then second thing you think of is if the guy just like messages, "Hey, what's up?"
The worst.
Oh, you just don't reply.
Girls do that too, and it's painful.
Yes.
It's so painful. I feel like there's a lot more onus on the guy to have like some clever thing to say.
I think it's because of the ratio between how many guys versus how many girls are on these apps.
Yes.
Quality guys and girls.
Yes.
Let me say, yeah.
Because Janelle made a point in her episode of just getting flooded with matches as a woman. And
I'm not gonna lie, when the only reason I did the dating, I barely even did it. Like it was just anytime I would drink, I would download it.
Yeah.
Like next morning, I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Like immediately undownload it. Like I don't even.
It's like a bad hookup, but it's just the app.
It's almost just like the ego boost, where it's so bad. It sounds so bad. Like ego boost of just being like, oh, cool. And the next morning, I'm like, why did I do that? Like I just did.
But apparently, it happens like all women practically. Like anybody can just download that thing because men are men. That's the other thing. Men are men and we're dogs. We'll just like go through a period. There are absolutely times, and I know all the guys have done it at least once, where you just like swipe right on everything just to see what happens. You know what I mean? just see what you get. You know, because you only get like 100 swipes or something in a day. Hinge limits that a little bit better too. They like narrow it down. It's like only like a few likes in a day.
at a time too. Yeah, something like that.
Something that I hate about dating profiles, and I don't know if it bothers you too, is group photos.
Oh, because you don't know who's who.
Get that shit, especially when they lead with the group photo.
Yeah.
Get that shit out of there.
It's like you're hiding something.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly. Or when you don't show your face. Do guys do that at all? Do they not show their face?
Yes, there are some. Or where it's like they even lead with like a pet photo. That's weird.
Oh, look, I have a dog.
As much as I'm like, cute dog, maybe, but like...
I swiped for the dog. Like, no.
Yeah. Honestly, I wish I could say more. Like, I wish I was still on dating apps and I could speak more to it, but...
It's almost fun just to download it just to, like, see, like, what the fuck is going on out there these days, you know?
Well, the reason I stopped going on it was because, for me, I'm like happy single right now and I don't actually want to date anyone. Yeah. So I was like, what is the reason for me even doing this? Realistically, if I even were to talk to someone, I have no intentions of actually dating them. Yeah. So I was like, there's just no point.
What's the point of investing all that time and actually having a conversation
and talking
with
to anyone when I'm like, do I really care about, like, probably not.
Probably not. I think I'm probably good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even for you, it's like, I know that right now you aren't looking for major commitment. I don't know if you're still on dating apps right now.
Not at the moment, yeah.
But when you were, it's like, what was your end goal? Like, were you looking to date someone, or what were you looking for? So that's a good point.
When I re-downloaded it, I think I was just going through the phase of like coming out of a breakup, and you're like, oh, I want to.
I think it's always like post breakup, seeing what's out there.
Yeah. Like just talk to somebody for the sake of like filling that space a little bit while you're getting over the relationship. But yeah, like I didn't have an angle. I was just on there, right? Just seeing what's out there. Exactly. Yeah. I feel like I'm nearing a point where I'm like ready to download them again. I've been talking with the guys, like I've been talking to Kabir and stuff, and it's like, oh, like it seems kind of cool, you know. Yeah. So I might like hop back on at some point, but yeah, for now, no. For now, I'm just Just chilling.
Hot boy summer.
Hot boy summer. Exactly. Everybody's got to have a hot boy summer, hot girl summer. So that plays into it too. Is like, I wouldn't want to get into any kind of like relationship, situationship, none like that. I want to be like completely free for the next few months, you know?
Yeah.
So
No, I feel you.
there's a part of that. On the topic of relationships and dating, let's talk about those changes that we sort of alluded to before with like birth control becoming something that men will do. Something else that is like very quickly changing is the wealth dynamic in relationships. So I wanted to ask you about your take on that, because you're in my eyes, a very successful person. I think you're very driven. And I think you have a lot of like career ambition in your life, if that makes sense. Like you're constantly like pushing yourself to do more.
Yeah.
And so that's very cool. But I'm wondering what your thoughts are on like wealth in a relationship, how that dynamic works.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting dynamic. I don't think we're in the day and age anymore where the guy necessarily needs to make more money. I think now it's, you know, girls can make more than the guy, or it doesn't matter as much. I think it really depends on how you treat each other. One thing I do think is still really important is like, can you still be independent yourself? Are you depending on someone else? I think the days of depending on someone else financially should be over, at least. Just because, you know, girls and guys nowadays, you can make your own. I think before, like our parents' age, like it's at the end of the day, the way I saw like our parents, their marriages were always partnerships. It's partnerships based on who can financially support you.
Sustain the family, yeah.
Sustain the family, exactly. And that's what I think so many couples are still together these days, just because that's what it is.
If you left it, you're screwed, yeah.
Totally. Where you kind of don't have a chance to leave it. But nowadays, I think, you know, if you should be able to financially support yourself. And I think that's why a lot of relationships almost end, is because you don't feel bound by money. Money
is always such a big issue in relationships too, right? To your point of like our parents, right? My mom being a single mom, I've always seen her as someone who's independent and able to like fund herself as a woman, right? So even though for me, I've seen that my whole life, there is still a part of me that just like sees, I guess, like Western culture or whatever it was growing up that like planted those sort of stereotypes with me. A part of me still wants to be the provider in a relationship, regardless of if I know that the woman can make more than me. A part of me still wants to like try and be the one who's making more, like be the breadwinner.
And it's funny, I was still thinking about this too, because even on a first date, I think if a man asks a girl out on a date, I think I would still expect him to pay.
That's the thing, right? It's weird. Like, it's weird.
And I was trying to figure out why, and I think it comes down to, it kind of shows what kind of man they are. Like, are they a gentleman? Like, do they open the door for you? Like, do they walk on the busy side of the sidewalk? Or like, if you see like, I don't know, some guy who looks like they might stab you, do they go on that side?
Do they get
like,
in between
it's the
you?
small things. And I think that kind of has to do with like how they're raised and if they are a gentleman or not. And I think that it's not about them paying necessarily. It's not about you needing a free meal. It's just about them showing their character. Even just thinking about this now, I haven't like thought about this a ton, but like, it's almost like in that sort of courtship phase of like getting to know somebody. You know what I mean? Like you are trying to make good impressions on the person. But then once you're settled into, you still do those little things. You offer to pay and you do these things, but it wouldn't be expected, I don't think, deeper in the relationship. I agree. Once it's deeper in, like it's more of an equal.
I think
that's kind of how I see it.
But I feel like there's also like certain behaviors or certain things that should always be that the guy is doing. For example, opening doors, walking on the busy side of the sidewalk. You know what that's from, by the way?
No.
It's from people throwing garbage out of their windows back in like the olden days or something like that.
I always thought it was like if a car just like...
That's what I thought. So if a car is hitting me, I'm like for sure dead. You might live. But no, it's from, they would throw garbage out of the windows in like whatever era, and the garbage would fly and hit the guy on like the outside. Like that's how far it would get. And it wouldn't hit the woman.
I never knew that.
So guys are just getting trashed. But I feel like stuff like that should always continue. I think things when it comes back to money, that's when it can kind of settle out once you're in the relationship, because I'm definitely on the boat of like, if this is a first date, I am for sure paying. I'm prepared to pay. Like
Why do you think that it is just because it's like
to me, it is just about being a gentleman in the moment. And like, I don't know, it's weird to me to split the bill on a first date. I would be really opposed to it. I wouldn't like it. It would throw me off. What I have
heard of people doing, like this is, I think, once people are in relationships, is if the girl's paying, the guy feels so uncomfortable that he actually takes her credit card and pays. which I think is insane. Like, I think
That's
in this
weird.
day and age, it's like you should just feel manly enough for your girlfriend or whoever to pay for it. Or even driving. I've heard like how some guys like they won't let a girl drive, which I think
so
is
bizarre to me.
so weird. It's like
that
no
kind
one,
of thing is weird to me.
yeah, and I like that's what kind of surprises me that that's still what's happening. And yeah, I don't know.
When I was back in my like dating phase, so between my two relationships, I had been seeing this girl who lived all the way out by SFU.
Okay, so far.
Far.
Yeah.
And like I would drive there, but then everywhere we went around there, she would drive. Like that to me is
Right.
like fine, that makes sense. Like you're
Yeah.
both sort of like putting in your own a little bit then too, you know what
It's
I'm saying?
also like, again, it's like gas. It's just like,
Yeah,
it's everything.
it's a give and take,
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
We're not rich here.
Yeah.
We're not rich. But yeah, I think that the wealth dynamic itself is shifting. And earlier you talked about how it's like around like a partnership independence, right? I think if you think about marriage,
Yeah.
right, the institution of marriage was designed for men to gain power and women to gain
To
security.
own these women. Yes.
Yeah. Like now that you're married to me, like you do everything for me, and the reason why is because I'm going to provide for you.
Yeah.
And that's just super dated.
It's so dated. It's,
yeah.
I can't even imagine having to live like that. Like,
Yeah.
to have to ask someone to do something because you need their money.
Mhm.
It's just, it's a scary thought.
It creates, to us clearly, it creates like a weird power dynamic,
Yeah.
right? Because it's, like you're so dependent on the person, you wouldn't be able to do something without them.
And especially like if they're a bad guy, then they just feel like they own you. And I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's just whack. It's just
Yeah.
not cool. It's just not cool.
So are there any red flags for you when it comes like if a girl expects you to pay, is that a red flag for you?
Yeah.
And I guess it depends on first date versus
It depends
like,
on time. First date, if they didn't say anything, I'm cool with it.
right.
Second date, I'm probably still going to pay. And I'm like coming into it thinking I will still pay. But I might want them to offer,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and just be like, hey, I got this one. I'll be like, no, it's no problem. I'll put it on the credit card. I'll pay with it later. Whatever. I'll deal with that. It gets to a point where it's like if everything is just expected of you to do and you like continue to fall into those stereotypes, as much as I embrace them for the most part, like I'm still aware of it as like not being that these days. You know, I would still want them to
Exactly.
acknowledge like an effort to
Yeah.
do their part. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I still see things all the time online, like people completely disagreeing with what we're saying right now. You know, people are like, no, like if your man can't pay for every date, your man's just broke. Give me a break.
Everyone works nowadays. Like
Yeah.
it's interesting. Are there any other red flags you would say like on a first date?
On a
Because
first
I feel
date.
like for guys it's so like I don't know. There's so many red flags. Like
For me on a first date, it like put your fucking phone away. If your phone is out, like I'm done. Like mentally checked out. It's over.
like be present in the moment.
Be present in the moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like. I wouldn't have my phone out throughout my entire relationship. If we have a date night, my phone's not out.
Right.
Right. It would be out once we got home or something like that, and like we're like chilling watching a movie. Like I might be like messaging the guys, like seeing what's going on, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm also just not on it the whole time. So for me, like phones are a huge
That's
red
really
flag.
good. That's really good to have in a relationship. Yeah.
How about you? You got red flags?
Red flags. I think my immediate red flag, it's not so much like an action, it's just who they are as a person. If they're egotistical, I hate that.
Like talking about themselves the whole time?
Yeah, like just can't stop talking about themselves. Like just
I
always
got this
boosting
promotion at
them.
work the other day.
Yeah, and it's like if that's happening, I feel like there's something you're hiding.
You're compensating for something. You know?
Exactly. Like that's my number one red flag, and I just think it's the biggest turnoff. I'm sure there's so many other things. I just can't think of them right now.
Yeah,
in terms
but
of, like,
I mean that's
first
so
red
interesting
flag.
though. Is like ego for some people is like a turn on.
Yeah.
You know, like some people just really like somebody who's super into themselves, and like to me it gets conflated with confidence.
Yeah.
You know, everybody likes a man who's confident, right? I feel like confidence is like a really important thing to have as a man. But like you can overstep all these kinds of things. You know what I mean? You can
Yeah.
overuse confidence, and then you just sound like a dick.
Yeah.
Right?
And I almost, now that I think about it, I wonder if the reason ego is so unattractive to me is I feel like if you're so egotistical, you don't care about your partner. And then I think that's where it's like, at the end of the day in a partner, it's both of you guys should care about each other just as much.
Yeah.
And I think if you care about yourself so much, there's no room for anyone else. And maybe that's why it's just immediately it's like, nope,
Yeah.
you're not a good.
Because you have to be interested in what the other person's life is. We've been talking about money and that dynamic, but still, like, intimacy and like creating a relationship, that still exists the way it is. You know what I mean? Money's just one part of that, and that dynamic is changing.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just care about yourself, you suck.
Exactly. You're not I doubt you'd be a good boyfriend.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my assumption.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of red flags still, sorry, but when a woman on a date is like way too reserved, like way too quiet, and isn't sharing much about themselves, like if you're just like the one driving a conversation like crazy, that's brutal too.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
It just creates so much work.
And it just shows it's like moving forward. If you go on a second date, it's like, what are you going to talk about next? You've already asked all your questions.
Yeah. What's your favorite color? No.
What show you watching?
Yeah. Oh, the worst. This is bringing back like flashbacks already. Like, I hate all that shit.
Yeah.
Getting like talking phases are just brutal.
Yeah.
They're not a lot of fun. You know?
That's why I just like, I feel like right now I'm like, I don't care to. It just sounds so exhausting.
It's a huge investment of energy. Yeah. And then on top, you being like a busy career driven person, then you have all your time with our friends.
Exactly.
Where the fuck does the relationship fit
like,
in there?
If I could choose between seeing friends or meeting someone who I'm like, maybe I don't even care about you, I'm like, obviously I choose to be with our friends. Yeah. Because you're taking a gamble, and like, what's the gamble worth right now? Especially if you're not looking to date long term.
Yeah.
What's the point?
What's the point? Why am I doing it?
Exactly.
Yeah. There is, though, a part, back to the topic of money, there is a part of me, as I mentioned, that like I like the idea of trying to be the breadwinner and like providing for the family. Not to the point where I want the woman to be dependent.
Right.
I would still want the independence, but I would want to be like financially stable enough where I am paying for every time we go out.
Right.
And I think I feel like that's okay. But I think it's dangerous when you get towards. I do think that's okay.
Yeah, it's more to the point where you almost own them, in that they don't have their own independence.
And that's not what anybody wants.
Yeah. And I'm sure even then you would still want her to have her own job, or her
to
still have her own life.
Like, go do your own thing still.
Yeah.
It's just when we're together, I want to be
when
like,
you go on date nights, when you do whatever.
Exactly.
You still,
I want to be taking care of everything.
Fair. Yeah.
But there is like a part of providing for the family that I like, because there's this whole idea of planting seeds and watering these seeds to create a tree that you're never going to sit in the shade of.
Deep. Okay.
And I love that thought. And it's like, if I could do that for my family, that would be what I want to do. I wouldn't want my partner to ever worry. I wouldn't want my children to worry about like costs or anything.
Right.
And there might be a part of it, like my mom growing up, she took care of me in like a really good way. She got me things that I needed. She got me things that I wanted.
Yeah.
I wasn't like a deprived child or anything, right?
Yeah.
But there are moments that I have where I can remember, I picture my mom talking to my grandma in my grandma's kitchen, crying because she's having to give up her share of our cabin in Seashell because she was paying 2 mortgages and she just couldn't do it anymore.
Right.
Seeing that is one of the things that I think I've seen over the years with my mom, where I now have this like thing planted in my head that I need to make money. I need to be okay.
Right.
And
for her also, I'm assuming.
For her also too. Yeah. And so it's like, I always saw her budgeting and all this kind of stuff. I would see her like being so strict. Like, she would get every single receipt from what she had. I don't do that. I'm a bit more like frivolous with my money because I know I'm okay.
You want to be comfortable.
I want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
And I want to be so comfortable to the point that my family is. So to me, I still want that dynamic, but yeah.
No, I think that makes sense. And like growing up, I think most women, they're told like, find a rich man. Find a rich man, blah, blah, blah. Which I think is changing nowadays. Even now, like my mom's like, no, just find someone you'll be comfortable with. That's the word she uses.
Yeah.
But so what do you think you're going to raise? Like, what are you going to tell your daughter? Do you think like...
That's a good question.
Yeah. Are you going to ask her, what do you think you're going to teach her versus your son? Do you think it'll be different? Do you think it'll be the same?
I would try to instill what we're talking about right now. I would try to instill, like, let's say I have a daughter, the mindset of take care of yourself first, before anything else. Take care of yourself so that you don't have to depend on somebody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if they're like dating some deadbeat,
Yeah.
I think there's a balance to this. It's like a gray scale. It's not
Yeah.
black or white,
Yeah.
right?
It totally is.
Yeah. And so I wouldn't want my daughter to date some asshole that's like just useless.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I want both of them to be taking care of themselves, but I don't think I would expect a daughter of mine to be dating some guy who is like always taking care of them the same way that I want to. I would be okay with that not happening as long as he's not a deadbeat.
You would also just hope that like the way you raise her, she would want a man
at the same time.
Yeah.
A man with some aspiration, some like
totally
drive.
that would also want to take care of his family.
Yeah.
For
a son, and I'm going to ask you this question too afterwards. For a son, I would want I would want him to want to provide the exact same way. I feel like there's a thing with men and sons. Like we want our sons to be a lot like us a lot of the time.
Fair. Yeah.
And so I would want my son to like have those same values and know that you're taking care of a family, that you are planting that seed, you're watering that tree so that they're good.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think if I had children too, I think I would, definitely tell both of them to obviously be able to financially be independent. I think even for the guy, though, I would tell him to find a woman who's also independent. Because I think in a lot of relationships, again, where the woman depends too much on him, I think it's tough.
You would want him to be leech? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like I would also make sure that's in his head to find someone who is also like has aspirations, who wants to work, and it's not just...
that's so true. It goes the other way too. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. We've been like my whole time in this conversation, I've been thinking from the perspective of the man. I've been thinking, okay, like what's the man doing? They're providing, they're taking care. It's weird that they're being possessive. I've never until right now
I feel
think
like
of it as a woman abusing it.
a lot of men are just like find a pretty girlfriend.
Yeah, and that's not okay either.
Doesn't matter what she does, like, or maybe it's like, oh, she'll just be the caretaker at home. Yeah, but like I don't think like even the stay-at-home mom. That. Yeah, I think I would still. I don't know. I think that's what I would try to ingrain in the guy. Yeah. And then the girl for sure, like be independent. I think the rule of thumb is like have 3 times your rent saved up somewhere for yourself. I don't know, something like that. Maybe it's different.
It's 3 months of rent. Yeah.
3 months of rent.
3 months of rent.
That's
saved,
what you should always have for
yourself.
Yeah. Not shared. Something like that.
That's such a good point. I never really thought about it like that, where I wouldn't want my son to be used, right? I guess that's the other side of it too, right? I wouldn't want myself to be used. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want a woman expecting me to pay for things all the time, as much as I would be okay with it.
Yeah.
I guess that's the red flag.
That is the red flag.
That's the red flag. Yo, shit.
Full circle.
That's the fucking red flag. Yeah. If they were always expecting you to be the one paying for everything, covering all that, nah.
Yeah.
No, that's a big red sign.
Flag. Yeah.
To me, that's a huge turn off. Yeah. Wow, look at this. It came right back. That's awesome. So I guess then we've talked about the wealth dynamic and how that has shifted. We talked a little bit already about other things sort of staying consistent. So opening doors, doing the gentleman stuff, letting a woman walk through the door first, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff, I guess we both agree on, that stays.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless of where you're at with wealth and all that.
Yeah.
So that would bring me then to, I had a question about that, but who cares? We'll skip that. I'll ask you about, over the pandemic, you chose to leave a relationship that was long-term. You chose to end that. What was that like?
It was definitely hard. I think with any relationship, we dated for around 5 years. So it was definitely...
It was that long,
that long,
Holy
yeah.
shit.
And we had known each other right out of high school because we met at BCIT. So we knew each other for like 6-7 years, which is quite a long time.
I didn't know you met at BCIT.
Yeah. Yeah. Same group first semester.
Yeah.
Same homeroom. Yeah. But I think, so we met, 6 years ago. We started dating 5 years ago. And I think when you start dating someone that young, you just don't know who you are as a person yet. And also because we met in school, we're in the same place in our lives. We were both graduating at the same time, getting our internship, starting a full-time job.
Right.
We were in the same, I always call it like chapter in your life.
Yeah. That can be attractive, by the way, and that might have been part of what brought you together, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
when you're both
we were in the same
towards
place.
The same goals. Yeah,
exactly. Like I know around that time, everyone would always be going out, but that's when I would just stay home, and that's when I didn't really see you guys that often. It was because that's just where it was in my life, and it both worked out that way. But now, obviously, like I think I'm just starting to realize what makes me happy and what I want to prioritize, and I kind of realized that we had two different things that we wanted to prioritize. And I think at that point, when you're not on the same page about everything, someone's compromising their happiness at the end of the day. Two different things make you happy. So you can't, if I'm compromising to make him happy, I'm losing my happiness and vice versa. So I think at that point, it's, you know, you don't have kids to compromise for. You're not sharing a house. So like, why do that? You're not
so invested into the relationship.
Exactly. So why are you losing some of your happiness for some, like, yes, obviously there was a lot of love there, but when you're so young, I think it's just, you owe it to yourself to be selfish, to find what makes you 100% happy. And that's kind of what happened. Did COVID play a part in it? I think just because it made you stay home for so long. Like you couldn't do what else.
You were living together?
We weren't fully living together, but like I was basically there 24/7.
Right. Working there too then.
Working there too, which was also like, at some point, I stopped working from his place because I think it's just too much almost.
You're meshing so much of your life into one place.
So much. And also like 9 to 5 when you're just barely talking to each other. It's just meetings. Like you kind of lose that relationship
the spark
aspect.
Piece too. Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know if, I think COVID affected in the sense where, you know, I used to always go with my friends before, but COVID made you not be able to. So I realized, you know, without that aspect of my life, am I as happy? And I wasn't. And I think, you know, any relationship you have, what I always thought is, if I have kids and I'm stuck in a house with you for like 20 years, I mean, I'm sure I'd still see friends, but it's like, if it's not enough now, what will make it enough then?
And would it? Like at all?
Exactly. And I think that's just a question I had. And I think both of us owed it to each other to just figure out who we are by ourselves. Yeah. We're only in our 20s.
Date yourselves for a while.
Exactly. Yeah. And I haven't really had a chance to do that, like, since high school, to just be by myself.
Yeah. So, that's the thing. When you come out of high school, like, dating is very different in high school versus out. Like, very different.
Yeah.
Your girlfriend or boyfriend in high school doesn't mean shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
exactly.
That's not real.
Yeah, I think once you leave school, it's just a completely different. And then once you once you talk about potentially moving in together and all these different things, it's just, it fast tracks everything so much. Yeah.
I feel like I can definitely understand or try to understand what you were going through when you lost that thing that made you happy, which was like socializing with your friends frequently, right? And when you lose that, life can kind of like shine a spotlight on the things that are making you unhappy.
Yeah, and you realize you lose that too.
You can, Before
it was a decision not to go out, but now it's like you physically can't.
I would like to when I have the choice.
Yeah.
And now I don't get to at all. It makes you reevaluate and reassess what's going on in your life that is still there. Yeah. Is that making you happy? Yeah. Absolutely.
The one thing I will say about COVID, and I did think about this a lot. Like, would it have been different if we broke up when COVID wasn't a thing? Like, how would it have affected post-breakup? Yeah. And I am quite grateful that it was during COVID, just because I feel like I am the type of person that does like to go out, to drink and like whatever, just go and have fun with friends. And I think, you know, I still did do that. I still saw friends, but instead of relying on, you know, just drinking and meeting random strangers, I relied on being with my best friends and just like, I think throughout COVID and throughout that post-breakup period, that's kind of what brought me closer to everyone, is because instead of seeing, you know, just instead of just drinking the night away and doing whatever, I was just hanging out with like close friends like you guys. And
you
just
had the bubble, that was it. Yeah. It was the same group of people and you couldn't go out to bars or restaurants.
Exactly. You couldn't make mistakes where the next morning you wake up and you're like, what did I
and
just
it's not
do?
Just a dating profile, it's a real person this time. Yeah.
So I am really grateful for that. Like, yeah. And even now it's like, I don't feel the need to date right now because I don't.
It's like you made it through what would normally, in my experience, be kind of like the reckless rebound phase. Yes. Yeah. Where you're just like looking for something to fill voids, right? And you got to get through that without any possible temptation, risk of some other thing. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I get that.
Which is why also I'm so thankful to have a big group of friends.
Yeah.
And also
occupy your time is what
honestly.
You need. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes me think about relationships where, you know, sometimes people forget, like, stop talking to their friends. And that's always where, you know, if that were the same position where maybe I stopped talking to everyone, how different would it be?
Yeah.
Which thankfully not, but.
Yeah. I mean, it happened the way it happened, right?
Yeah.
It's funny that for you, it shone a light on you being unhappy with that relationship because you couldn't do the rest of the things in your life. I went back to my ex over the pandemic, and we've since broken up again. And I feel like it did the same thing, but on the other side of the coin. You know what I mean? Like for me, I was feeling just alone sometimes, right? I didn't feel as comfortable going out as well. I was, for the start of the pandemic, living at home with my mom, right? And my mom is older. If I got my mom sick, I would be fucking devastated. I would hate myself. So I couldn't take those risks, if you will.
Very fair, yeah.
Right. And so for me, I wanted to stay in more. But what that meant was I was lacking like connection with people. I was lacking that. And then on top of going through a breakup just shortly before, because it was just like November of the year before, right? On top of that, now I'm like really alone. Now I got nothing. So to me, it was
complete opposite.
Easier to like try and reach back out. There was still that comfort there with that person.
Yeah.
Right. So we just started like texting over the pandemic around like March, April. And then next thing you know, we're like having a picnic. We're like deciding like, oh, like, are we going to do anything about this? Are we going to give this another go? And then we did. And it was fine at first, but very quickly the same feelings came back where it was like, I shouldn't have done this.
There was a reason you guys broke up originally.
Yeah. And I take ownership on that. That was a shitty thing of me to do, to be honest, was to even bother entertaining going back because it was a selfish want to go back. Right. There was probably a part of me that could have known like this is going to be a mistake. Don't do this. Also,
when you're in a state, though, of, I don't know if you would call it as far as depression, but if a state of, obviously, you're very upset and feeling alone.
I'm alone. Yeah. Like I wanted something.
Yeah.
There,
so you didn't realize it then at that point that's why you were reaching out again. So it's.
And then once things opened up again, I got those connections back. I was able to see people again.
And that's when you're like, maybe I don't.
I was like, shit, no, like this wasn't it, you know? Yeah. On top of that, it doesn't matter.
COVID does weird things. Yeah.
So for you, though, it was kind of like advantageous having this happen during COVID because you couldn't fuck up. You couldn't do something bad. I just know
myself. I feel like I would have made some bad decisions.
As long as it makes a good story at the end of the day, you know? Yeah, I still think, though, it's hard to end any long-term relationship. And it's unfortunate that a pandemic might have brought that to light, that it was time to end it. Yeah. To me, it feels like unfortunate in a way, but obviously it was the right choice. Do you think that it would have happened without the pandemic at all?
I think it would have happened eventually. I don't know how quickly it would have happened. Because, I mean, you knew, like, the relationship was great guy, like there was never any trust issues, there's never any, you know, it was a good relationship, and like I was still able to go with my friends all the time. It's not like I was ever missing that aspect of my life. So I think if I didn't have the opportunity to miss it, which is, you know, COVID giving me the opportunity to not be able to go out every weekend, I don't know if I would have realized or like at least done it as quickly. I don't know.
Do you think, and this goes back to Devin's episode where he was talking about how like you can get kind of an inkling of whether or not this will be worth it, and you've kind of talked about that earlier, where it's like, will something make this work? Do you think you had like that sense at all earlier on in the relationship? And maybe I'm like digging too much now, like looking for like things about your relationship, but I'm just kind of curious, like when I was with my ex, I had a period of time where I was so sure this is the one, right? I talked about that with Janelle too. I was so sure this is the one. And then things happen and some like shit comes up or whatever, and I'm no longer able to. Basically, I'll give like a long story short about what happened, like, because I've talked about this a couple times on episodes, and I realize no one knows what's going on with me. Just fucking tell the story. Things came up about my past with previous sexual partners that she was not okay with. Those people that I had slept with them before we'd even met. So my argument was, why does that matter? I'm with you now. Her argument was, why didn't you tell me that you had slept with these people? And it was like I guess I can see it her way, but I couldn't. And so that caused us to break up, and that like from that moment, like that soured everything for me, and it slowly built in my head like
Slowly
this is not what I
unraveled.
want to be in,
Right.
right? Like, okay, the person who I was so head over heels for, great person, really great person, our relationship doesn't work, and it just won't work. Anyways, like my point of me saying all that is like, I had that sense earlier on, right? I have trouble, and I've talked about this with my counselor. So this is my plug for mental health. Talk about shit with your counselor. Get a counselor. I've talked about this with my counselor, where I have trouble confronting things earlier on when I know them to be true, but maybe haven't quite come to that conclusion yet through logic.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I'm wondering if maybe you at all felt that at any point earlier on in the relationship. Was there any moment or period of time where you're like, nah, like this isn't going to work, but I'm going to ride it out and I'm going to see what happens?
There was. And I think what I was always wondering is, I think there's two types of relationships. I think there are partnerships where on paper you guys like it's perfect. Who you are as a person, your careers, your families, it works. It's a partnership. You guys get along, you guys don't fight, and that's what we had. Like, we never fought. Like I got along well with his family, vice versa. Like on paper, it was perfect. But then there's another type of relationship, and like one of my girlfriends had one like this, where it's just passionate. Like you almost can't, like it's like magnetic.
Yeah.
You're always wanting each other. It's so passionate. Every time you see each other, it's just whatever, flames. But it can be, toxic at times because it's so passionate. And that's what I always wondered, like, what makes a marriage? Like, what makes a lifelong relationship work? And I still don't know that answer. But I think that's where I knew, we could make a partnership work. End of the day, like, we were a great relationship, but were we missing that, really passionate love? I think so. And that's what I think I knew that early on, but I just didn't know what made a lifelong relationship.
Did it take seeing your friends that had that relationship to make you realize that you didn't have that?
No. I mean, well, yes, for her talking about it, like they were very on and off, and the way she would talk about it, them getting back together and everything, or just like whenever they would see each other or talk to each other, the way that
when
they
it's
just
on, it's on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And definitely I was like, my relationship, it doesn't have that right now, but it's a good relationship. We don't fight. It's just a good relationship. Yeah. I still have that question. Like, what makes
it like go all the way? Yeah.
I don't think anyone really knows.
No, yeah, you don't know until it happens, I guess, right? And that's so crazy to me that you don't know until it happens. Like, I feel like by now someone should have figured this shit out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Relationships are so weird.
Relationships are weird. I feel like the theme, I guess, in our conversation from your 5-year relationship is those 5 years aren't a waste.
No, not
right?
at all.
Those 5 years
Never
teach you so much about yourself.
Yeah.
Those 5 years teach you so much about the relationship and what you need in relationships, right? I feel like I've said this in a much earlier episode. I don't believe any relationship is a waste of time. I think every single relationship is there for some reason, and it's going to teach you some lesson, right? For me, in this most recent one, what I've learned is when I have a gut feeling, it's probably right, and I should act on it as soon as possible.
Right.
Just rip the Band-Aid. Right. Just go for it and just say, fuck it.
I also feel like I need to learn from that. Like, trust your gut instinct. You have it for a reason.
Yeah. It gets you a long way.
Yeah.
I feel like your gut instinct is the thing to rely on. It's the only thing that sticks with you all the time.
One thing I think I've also learned is you have to be selfish. You can't always put other people's feelings before your own. Do what makes you happy. You only, hate to say it, you only live once, and at the end of the day, you need to do what makes you happy. It's only your life you're living.
And if what's making you happy is being in that relationship, then that's what you do.
Yeah.
You stay in it. If you're not happy in that, if there's something about you that wants to be out of it, get the fuck out of it and just see what happens. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to land on your feet. You're going to be fine. But get counseling when you're done with it.
I have not seen a counselor.
No?
I know I need to do it. Like, I don't think I would go there
for need to do it.
But I hear it's good for you just to even talk through. I don't know.
I've found it very beneficial.
I hear everyone should go even if you don't feel like you have an issue.
You don't realize how much you start opening up until you're sitting there and you're talking, right? I've not even met my counselor once. We've done it all over the phone because it started in COVID. But even then, like, we'll have like an hour call booked, and in my head I'm thinking like, I'm fucking good, I got nothing to say. Next thing you know, like 5 minutes into the call, I'm just like going on and on and on and on. No, I haven't cried with my counselor. It's been a while since I've like cried. Anyways, like,
maybe you need like a bottle of wine to
it'll come up in enough time, I'm sure. Just takes the right shit to happen.
Yeah.
Meghan, I really appreciate you coming on here. This has been a lovely conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you again sometime. I'm happy to have everybody on here. I've been thinking about this more and more too, by the way. I've been thinking about like the way I kind of want to structure guests on here. Having Kabir come on as a co-host, I think is going to be really cool. And like it will take an upgrade. I'll need to update my set and everything. I'll need to get an interface that takes 3 microphones. Mine only takes 2. But I think it'll be cool to start getting group things in. But I care so much about my friend group as what it is. I really just want to stick to my friends for the most part. Like I think there will be some topics that I think like a professional voice would like lend well to the conversation. Like I don't know if we're talking about like real like serious mental health stuff. It'll be cool to get somebody on that actually knows their shit and isn't just talking.
Yeah.
But I think our
there are like
perspectives are solid.
20 something of us. So
that's
there
the thing.
are
I got time.
I
got a lot of opinions to get out.
We
here.
all got so many issues too.
Yeah, for sure. Seriously, honestly, we can go for a while.
We can go on for ages.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate you taking the time. Yeah. To everybody listening and watching, thank you for checking out today's episode. If you're not already, make sure that you are subscribed, and that way you'll just stay up to date. Usually there's an episode every Monday. There might be stuff in between sometime soon. I don't know. No promises. But yeah, I will see you all next week. Peace. Thanks, Meg.
Thank you.